Oh, what a day! What a lovely day!
Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe. Hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon, crypto and thanks button in the info box below the video. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using sock accounts. You'll be warmly welcome back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel. So please share the show on Facebook and X. Now we are joined by Chocolate Sane, 10th Man, Righteous Force, Original D-Rose, Arwin, and a whole bunch of people in Discord. So welcome, one and all.
Hello, hello, good afternoon.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, good to have you all.
Morning.
Any evidence of...
Hey, can you guys hear me?
Yes, we do. Stag.
Hey, Nathan. Sorry to interrupt.
That's okay.
I think I have a flat Earth proof that I'd like to share and get you guys' take on it, if we have time.
Always got time? Does it have any direct
Awesome.
connection to a housekeeping question that I can ask prior to you going through it, or not?
Put me on the spot. It's kind of in line with QE's solar and the salt flats.
Okay.
I
Well,
don't know
hold fire for 1 second. We'll ask a couple of quick housekeeping questions, then we'll do it. Any evidence that you can acquire an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline? That's right. Stigoli is waiting in the wings to do something, but also dead air's nice.
No.
Perfect. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
Not that I can feel.
Or measure? Okay. Off you go, Stigoli. I'd just like to get the housekeeping actually out of the way, a couple of them at least.
All right, yeah, sounds good. So have you guys ever discussed abyssal planes?
Yes.
Okay, all right, well, that kind of was my thunder. That was my thing. Yeah, I saw them yesterday watching a YouTube video about mineral collection at the bottom of the ocean floor. And a couple of their words stuck out to me, and I did a little research on it. Very cursory research, Google searches. And yeah, it's kind of in line with, like I was saying, with QE's argument about the salt flats and how there's, let me just go to the, no, they vary, there's 9,000 square kilometers in surface, and they only vary in depth from 10 to 100 centimeters per kilometer. So I thought that was a flat Earth proof.
Yeah, it's a plane. And the plane, in terms of its undulations, if you will, is measured with reference to the horizontal. So it's a plane, and its deviation to reference horizontal. You couldn't get more flat Earth proofy. Absolutely. Yeah, spot on.
Well, thanks. Yep, that was it, though. I didn't know you guys had already talked. I must have missed that show. Maybe the one I missed.
No, we've talked about abyssal planes on several occasions, and they've come up on various different shows, not just Flat Earth Debate that I've done. It's not something new, but that doesn't change the fact that there's plenty of people in the audience that are like, abyssal planes? What's he talking about? Maybe you can expand on what they actually are. I know you already have, but it's always good to reiterate these things.
Sure. I'll just read from Google. Abyssal plane, flat seafloor area at an abyssal depth between 3,000 and 6,000 meters. That's 10 to 20,000 feet. Generally adjacent to a continent. I think it's, from what I was reading, it's formed from like sediment. These submarine surfaces vary in depth only from 10 to 100 centimeters per kilometer of horizontal distance.
Right. I see what you mean, like the solar. Yeah. There's very little
Yeah.
relief. If it's, obviously it's not going to have relief. It's water on top of the abyssal plane. But in this regard, yeah, I totally get it. It's an excellent Excellent flat earth proof. And the clue's in the title, right? Plane.
Right. It's really flat. Impossible on the globe.
Okay, we have got a video to cover today. Now, how well it gets covered, I don't know, because I'm having some internet issues, and I do have an engineer coming out to replace my router tomorrow. But in the pre-show, when I tried to queue this up, it wasn't particularly great. So if we have to abandon it, I'm going to apologise in advance to PhysicsHigh. Okay, cool. I like the name. I won't give you a like just yet, because you haven't watched your stuff. But he's going to be talking about what are reference frames in physics. Cool. Okay. My absolute least favourite subject is axial rotation and the Coriolis effect. Unless John's here, because I'm not as smart as he is, and I miss this every time, which makes me laugh at myself. I'm amused by my own ignorance when John comes along in his Lamborghini and points out that to derive a flat plane measurement of a radius will give you the axes that you're now rotating. In other words, you're going to need a flat Earth for that. But like I say, I still, to this day, I can't help it. You get into the weeds of reference frames when talking Coriolis. Now, it may not be that that's what he's specifically referencing in this video, but as always, go and let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. The vain hope is that this particular videographer... Oh, why isn't that changed? There we go. This videographer would return the favour and offer us up some algorithmic love where YouTube offer us none. And put a link to our video, if he were to respond. Chance would be a fine thing. We've done a lot of these videos. Anyway, we'll get straight into it, unless there's a preamble from 10th.
No preamble, just a lot of weird stuff he says when he's covering that subject.
Okay.
Hi, and welcome to High School Physics Explained. My name is Paul, and today I'm going to be talking about what frames of reference are. The
There you go. As I say, let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me.
two types, how you can tell the difference, and why an understanding of frames of reference is an important step in getting to understand Einstein's theory of relativity. So stay tuned.
Ah, what? Theory of relativity? It's not a theory. It's not scientifically validated. It's not physics. What? Why are we talking about Einstein in High School Physics Explained? What's going on?
Well,
Have I missed something?
this is why I posted this video. He says a lot of things that don't belong in physics, but he calls it under the heading of physics.
Is Einstein physics?
Well, the
But you
concept.
could think of it as physics.
What is pseudo geometry can be thought of as physics? The geometry
Conception.
that's
Conceptually.
pseudo-Riemannian. It's in the title. How can you call this physics? The title of the geometry itself is pseudo.
So what's a frame of reference? Well, consider it a bit like your own personal XYZ axis. It's the way you view the world, and everything around you is relative to you.
Really? What if I'm describing a man on a roundabout observing a ball tossed over it? I'm not observing anything that's being detailed in that effect. I mean, we're off to a pretty bad start. I'm surprised I'll be able to critique him.
So, relative to me, this ball's right beside me at a certain distance.
Yeah, in this setting, yes, you have got something relative to you in your example. But I, separate from the example, can detail a man on a roundabout watching a ball tossed over the top, and detail the two reference frames, and detail the observation from the man's perspective. Not mine.
So is the steering wheel. And around me, I can see cars moving, and I can see trees moving, all relative to me. Now, of course, that's relative to me and not necessarily to the people around me. But that's the point. Motion, its displacement, its velocity, and so forth, is all determined really by who is observing it. That's why we call it relativity.
I wonder how he's got that bowling ball secured. That's pretty good. Has he actually drilled a hole in his roof to secure this bowling ball?
It's probably
as I drive
attached to his
around-
visor.
No, it's attached to the car roof. But that's pretty heavy, and I'm pretty sure the headline is not going to sustain it.
Everything is stationary. The laws of physics behave the way they should do. Everything around me is moving. So I'm stationary in my frame of reference, but the world around me is moving. But what about...
No. That's apparently moving. The world around you is not moving. That house next to it, this house isn't moving, right? It's apparently moving. Yeah? So the force of it moving is a pseudo force because it isn't moving. It looks like it's moving.
Someone looking at me from the side of the road.
Ads.
If someone observing me going past, well, they would have a different perspective. They would see me moving and they're stationary, as opposed to them being moving and I'm stationary. So we're having different frames of reference here, and both are correct.
I'm finding this laughable at times, the way he's saying it.
For the most part, it's all right.
So I've got this
Okay,
ball
he's in a
hanging.
car that's moving. He's one with the car that's moving. The car is moving, but he's not moving. What the heck?
No, that's perfectly legitimate. What he's saying is he is as one with his reference frame. Now, that would be to describe a non-inertial reference frame or a non-inertial frame of reference, right? So on the roundabout, when we describe Coriolis deflection, what frame of reference is the person who is factually moving a part of? The non-inertial frame of reference. Why is it non-inertial? Big shout out to Paula, not my wife, but Bible you, who explained this to me. Why is it non-inertial? Yeah? Why is it that that guy can describe he not moving when he's in a car that's moving, and then that reference frame will become the non-inertial frame of reference? Not moving frame of reference, you say? That makes no sense. No, it does. Because as far as he is concerned, he's not running, he's not walking, he's not spinning, he's not moving. Right? He is as one with the frame of reference that is moving. So when he details the apparent, although he didn't say that, deflection of the house next to him and says it's moving, well, no, it's apparently moving, but we'll just brush past that. I've already addressed it. Yeah? Well, that apparent motion is in the inertial frame of reference. So his non-inertial frame of reference is the car moving, and the description of something moving, with respect to him, in this case a house, is detailed in the inertial frame of reference. Now, if you have movement in that frame of reference, it's a pseudo-force moving it, because it's a house, right? But he's just described that house moving, hasn't he? Yeah, it's with respect to his non-inertial force of habit, his non-inertial frame of reference that's moving. That's the car. So if you're on a roundabout and you're looking down at the floorboards, you look at them and go, well, nothing's moving, I'm not moving, I'm perfectly still, and so is the ground I'm on. Yeah? Now, the fact that that is a turning platform is irrelevant to how you'll describe it in this effect, because the Coriolis deflection that you describe how much it bends. Hello? It's not actually bending, though, is it? The ball's tossed over the top of the roundabout and goes straight. But when we describe it with Coriolis deflection, we describe how much the ball bends. Yeah? Because you, on the non-inertial turning reference frame, see the ball bending. Look, it's bending through the air. And no, it's not. It's just looking like it's bending. It's an apparent deflection, like the house is apparently moving past the car. No?
Yeah, but he said that ball on the string, which is definitely moving, is like his steering wheel, which is not moving. And the steering wheel and the ball are in the car that's moving. So there, I find something at fault there.
Okay, well, we'll find out what he's going to do with the ball. He hasn't actually fully referenced it yet.
Here, and the reason I've got it hanging here is because it allows us to examine the laws of physics in terms of my frame of reference. Currently, it's hanging nice and vertically, and that's because gravity is pulling it down. Now,
no, it's because it's more dense than the air it's in.
Nathan, notice he has to grab it and keep it still.
Yeah, well, I mean, the problem is that in theory, he's got this pendulum, hasn't he? Right? And the idea is that, like a gyroscope, he's giving us something that is supposedly remaining fixed in space. Yeah? In this case, is plumb bob or pendulum.
Is that I am stationary relative to you. The person on the side of the road would see me moving. So I actually am moving at the same time. Moving, stationary, it really depends on who's observing it. But the physics behind the motion of this ball doesn't change. So in reality, I'm actually not sure whether I actually truly am moving. Maybe the universe is rushing past me. Now I'm stationary now, and I always have been stationary.
Okay, so now he's slipping in his Einsteinian concept, which is, I've already addressed it, right? No. To say that you couldn't tell the difference, therefore it is the case that the universe is brushing past you and you are in fact stationary, is absurd. No. You are in fact moving. You can describe your movement with respect to other things moving past you, like houses, from a non-inertial reference frame. That's it.
Relative to me, and the cars outside are moving relative to me. I'm in what we call an inertial frame of reference. The physics in this car is behaving like I expect it to. So you can see this ball is hanging vertically as you would expect it to in a gravitational field. But in a moment, I'm going to...
What gravitational field? We would expect it to do that because it's more dense than the air that it's surrounded by. Not because of some gravitational field. If it's surrounded by a gravitational field, why isn't all the gas that's rushing in and out of your lungs pooling at the bottom of the car? It's got mass. Fields of gravity in this Einsteinian pseudo-geometry are affected by that, right? In fact, it's the root cause, according to Einstein's maths. The uneven distribution of mass will cause the bending and warping of his pseudo-four-space geometry. Okay. So, mass, that would be air. Unaffected, you say? Yeah, that's because it's nonsense. There is no gravitational force in this car. Gas isn't going down, go boom boom. The clouds above him aren't going down, go boom boom. The helium balloon, if it was in the car, would be going up. So, no, there is no gravitational force.
Accelerate as I go around the corner.
I was going to bring in the helium balloon, but see, what he's got there is some kind of string with a heavier ball of some kind, and then like a canopy bottom to hold it up. If you remove that canopy bottom, that black ball is going to fall down to the floorboard. But if you replace that with a string and a helium balloon, it'd be hitting the ceiling, and we'd see the string hanging down. And would he be saying that the string, the gravitational force, is just pulling the string down, but not the balloon?
Right.
As the lights turn green. And let's see what happens to my ball. Swings back. And swings to the side. In that
Yeah, he's not so irritating that you want the ball to smash in his face when he turns the other way, is he? I mean, he's all right.
case, I was in what we call a non-inertial frame of reference. That is...
Pause, please.
I've already covered this, but go on.
So why isn't that happening on the outside of their spinning ball to everything that's on the outside?
Right on. What you mean, we'd notice? Yes.
Yeah, like he's noticing there.
Yeah. But then they go on to say that the effect would be so minute that you wouldn't be able to measure it, only to have someone like Adam come along and do the maths for exactly how you'd be able to measure it with a basic accelerometer.
Hang on. He just went into a roundabout at what speed compared to 1,000 miles per hour?
Yeah, you're saying that the rim velocity or edge velocity of his path on this roundabout is, what, more than the edge velocity of 1,000 miles an hour at the equator? Yeah, but comparatively, the effect that you would notice is calculable into a force that you would detect with an accelerometer. But you're talking about orders of magnitude less than this in terms of what would be detectable on a G meter, for the sake of argument. However, it is still a detectable amount that is not occurring. Regardless of how small, it's not quantitative in that regard. It's qualitative. If it happens, if Earth is turning, then we would have a measurable rate that we could see and detect on an accelerometer. I don't know the exact maths. Adam would have to be here to back me up in this regard. I don't think he is at the moment. But nevertheless, it's not like it's comparable as you are comparing it, where you're saying, oh, well, he's only going 10 mile an hour around this round. Oh, look at the bowling ball's flung right out. Yeah. And what, you're going to now say that because it's 1,000 miles an hour edge velocity at the equator that we'd be flung out? Well, yes and no. The amount that you'd actually detect is minuscule, but it would be detectable. That's the point.
Who on this show or in the audience hasn't been in a car where you make a sharp turn and you feel like you're coming out of your seat?
Yeah, we'd have those effects measurable all day long, every day, everywhere, on the surface of a baller flying through space at horrendous speeds. There's changes of motion that would cause everyone to throw up. You ever been on a waltzer?
Mm-hmm.
My ball is not behaving, and so as a result, you can tell that I'm moving. So
if we're moving, there's things that let us know that we're moving because you can tell. But that's not how Earth behaves, though. In that regard, there's nothing to detect because there's nothing happening.
May I interrupt again, please? He just said something. Please rewind 3 seconds.
inertial frame of reference. That is, my ball is not behaving, and so as a result, you can tell that I'm moving.
Stop.
So,
how many times have we seen those cranes with the ball hanging still? But it's on the Earth that's moving. How come the crane with the ball isn't moving like the ball in the car?
Earth's not moving. There's nothing to detect.
an inertial frame of reference is a case where my frame of reference is moving at a constant velocity or it's stationary.
So, therefore, if moving at a constant velocity, what are you going to say that you're not going to notice? And therefore, juxtapose that with what he said earlier, where Einstein says that you wouldn't know if Earth's moving or the universe is moving past it. You wouldn't be able to tell any difference.
Really, what we're saying is there's no net forces being applied to my frame of reference.
Other than there is.
So I'm not accelerating, and that's a critical point. And as a result,
Critical point that would be overcome by the fact that Earth in a turning motion would give you varying accelerative frames of reference all day, every day. And you'd definitely notice.
The laws of physics behave as I would expect it to. And this is where the ball comes in. This ball is hanging down and as I would expect it to in terms of a gravitational field. Yes.
There is no gravitational field. Yeah, gas isn't doing what you would describe gas to be doing if its mass, which you and your vernacular has it described as, it's not behaving in line with your ideas of what a gravitational field will do. Gas is not going down, it's expanding in all directions.
Yes, it's swinging a little bit because of...
Yes.
Nathan, just for the obvious, you're looking at relative density disequilibrium. You got something denser than the air. It's being held up by a string and a little canopy underneath it. Now they're going to hijack that and call that this magical force gravity, which later when you go to school, it doesn't exist. This is what's happening here.
of the bumpiness of the road, but it's not behaving counterintuitively. It's behaving as I expected. And you may have this happen yourself. If, for example, you were to stand on a train and it's moving at a constant velocity, you could throw the ball up and down with relative ease. It behaves just as if you're stationary. But that's the point. You're stationary relative to you. You're not stationary relative to the person on the platform.
Correct.
And so the laws of physics behave as you would expect them. But what if we added acceleration to our frame of reference? I'm now about to go into a roundabout.
If he did bolt this ball to the roof, then 39,000 views is it would annoy me greatly if that's the only number of views I got for wrecking my roof.
So what you notice now is that the ball swung out. It did.
Oh, it's not a bowling ball. It's super light. When he touched it then, you could tell it had no heft. It's probably just attached to the headliner with a safety pin then.
Did not behave in terms of my gravitational field. There's other forces at play. It's
In a face mask. It's a ball in a face mask.
non-inertial, and that's why we call it a non-inertial frame of reference. And only then do I know I'm actually moving, because I'm non-inertial. So I'm back now in my inertial frame of reference. Inertial because my car is now going at a constant velocity. But the fact is, I'm actually still stationary relative to me. I'm only moving because the trees around me appear to be moving, but for all intents and purposes, I'm actually still stationary, and someone's got a computer screen playing a moving picture. And here's the rub.
That's actually not a bad way of describing it. Right, so as we're watching his video, yeah, we are with him in the non-inertial frame of reference. Therefore, what are we watching? Are we watching a guy running in and out of frame? Or is he perfectly static within the frame? Perfectly static within the frame, right? So in the same way, when you're on a movie set and you can't have actors doing their job with cars rushing past, you just reverse this. You have the car stationary and then you project images of stuff moving by onto the windows, or green screen in modern terms, right? So therefore, the end result is the same for you looking through the lens of the camera like we are now looking at him. So that's a good way of describing it. I'll applaud him in that regard. You as the viewer get to see this from the non-inertial frame of reference. Useful. I'll have that. That's mine now.
I can't prove that I'm moving, because in fact, it all depends on who's observing that will determine whether I'm moving. And so therefore, there's no experiment that I can do that...
Experiment? If you're observing non-inertial frames of reference, there's very limited scenarios that you could put that into a scientific context. That would be to say that when we tried it once, we took a couple of hours over it on an after show once, maybe longer. And what we ended up with was you have a whirlpool. For whatever reason, there's like a levee that's broken or something like that, and a natural pool. But underneath, there's a leak that gets sprung through the side of the hill, right? Which means there's a whirlpool that develops in this natural lake, okay? And you get stuck in that whirlpool, so you're spinning around, right? But for whatever reason, you don't notice. You're as one with the spinning frame of reference, therefore non-inertial. Okay, so therefore, when the branch at the side of the bank comes towards you, goes away, comes towards you, goes away, right? That would be the effect of the branch coming towards you, right? Well, there's an effect. So you can just about squeeze it into a scenario that has a naturally observed phenomena. Just. So he's not doing that though, is he? Right? He's just calling descriptions of non-inertial and inertial reference frames science. They're not.
Proves definitively that...
See, and that's why. Next breath. Let's hear that in one statement. Why do people say science when they haven't got a cause and effect relationship established with the hypothesis after, as I've just sandwiched in on his behalf, observing a natural phenomena, so that you can vary that which you assume causes the natural phenomena to occur when varied in the form of an experiment? Why, when he hasn't done any of that, would he say science? Well, because in the next breath he says proving, because that's what science offers people like this when they do a bit of maths. It offers them a perceived empiricism to their statement. Now, I didn't need to do that. I'd literally just given him applause, hadn't I? I was like, I'll have that. That's good, that is. You talking about us watching you in this car is a perfect example of an observation from a non-inertial reference frame. Excellent. I didn't think of it before. You have. Kudos. We're critical. We're going to be criticising your Einstein nonsense in a minute, right? So to get applause from us is seriously high praise. But literally, what's the next thing he does? Hijacks the valour of science because he knows he said something smart. He knows it's right, and he is. So why call it science? Oh, because he wants that little bit of extra credibility to really bolster that what he's just said is factually accurate. Which it was. Let's hear it again.
Observing that will determine whether I'm moving. And so therefore, there's no experiment that I can do that proves definitively that I'm moving. And that's the key with relativity, or Galilean or Newtonian relativity. The laws of physics are invariant, certainly in terms of the laws of mechanics. I'm using the concept of inertia and forces and objects with mass, and so therefore we say that's classical mechanics. But Einstein took...
So, not science then.
this a step further. He said, look, this idea of relativity, or Newtonian relativity, or Galilean relativity, where you cannot prove that you're moving because you're an inertial frame of reference, well, that does not only apply to mechanical situations or mechanics situations, it should also apply to electromagnetism. In other words, the concept of light should also behave the concept of relativity. I cannot do an experiment with light to prove I'm moving.
So why would you be doing an experiment with light to prove that you are moving? I don't really follow his logic. Can anyone fill in the gaps here? Because I'm struggling to understand why you'd want to do that.
I don't know what he's talking about, but was that somebody talking?
Chocolate.
Yeah,
Go ahead, Chocolate. I'll go after.
not maybe because we're supposed to be moving. Because I hear a lot of we can't prove that we're moving, or there's no experiment to prove that we're moving. Well, but we're supposed to be moving. Isn't that the point?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say.
Oh, it's just a basic. I've assumed we're moving, but I've got no way of proving it. So let's just explain that there's no experiment that can prove it, and then go into Einsteinian, or in this case, Newtonian. The laws of motion of Newton were not right. Richard Feynman.
I can prove it. I'll even cite them to prove it. When you do celestial navigation, you got to assume the Earth is stationary and the stars, lights, are moving. When you get a drone and you get it to hover and stationary, the stars are moving. That's how you use light.
Behavior of light shouldn't change if I'm in an inertial frame of reference. The behavior of light should be exactly the same. If I measure the speed of light, let's say right now, inside this car.
Sorry, if you measure the speed of light, never been done by anybody ever. But if you
Nathan,
do it in your car, what are you talking about? Can't be done.
Nathan.
Got a derivation of an R-based value superimposed onto Earth, superimposed onto Venus, utilizing Kepler's based orbital mechanics to derive distances to the sun to give you the AU value taken from Einsteinian mathematics. That is not measurable in any way, shape or form. Now, they give it you as a two-way speed of light based on the scale of in terms of the list I've just gave you with Kepler and Huygens. Yeah, that's what they give you. But there's no measurable speed of light. It's utterly absurd. But he's hypothetically suggesting that he could measure it in his car right now. No.
Yeah.
No.
Nathan, he said at the beginning that the initial reference frame was a constant acceleration or absolute stationary. Remember that?
Yes.
Okay, so if you lift the drone up and it hovers stationary at 30 feet above the ground, and the camera shows the stars moving, what does that prove?
It proves that the stars are moving. What it doesn't prove is that Earth's turning underneath as a non-inertial turning reference frame.
Is the drone constant in one sense, that it's at the same place and it's not moving?
Hovering. If you said it already. Hovering.
Yeah. So thank you. He just proved that the Earth is not spinning.
With a torch, then I'm going to get the same value than if I were to be stationary. I shouldn't see any change whatsoever by the mere fact that I'm moving. But that raises a problem. If the speed of light doesn't change in terms of moving, then how do different observers observe the same light? that's the question we're going to have to answer in my next video. One last thing. This ball hasn't behaved like it would like it to. Ideally, I would like it to remain perfectly stationary. Now, I need more inertia for that, so a really heavy bowling ball would work, but I don't think I can suspend it up here. And of course, occasionally, because of my poor changing gears and the bumps in the road, I'm hitting the...
Do we need the rest of his apologetics?
No, but he just said something there that's interesting, because people have told us you wouldn't know you're moving when you're on a train, and he just says the bumps in the road and changing gears.
Right.
Like in an airplane. I know I'm moving in an airplane, but they tell us, oh, no, you don't know you're moving in an airplane. I go, I know I'm moving.
Exactly. They give you a hypothetical example where you notice nothing, and you go, I've been on a plane, you notice. No, you don't. I'll just try that once more. I have been on a plane and knew I was in motion. For various reasons, always. No. In my scenario, you can't tell. When you toss a ball up and down, it comes back into your hand. I see.
Those occasional non-inertial frames of reference, and as a result, my ball starts to move and we start to get periodic motion, or acts like a pendulum.
So when you're moving, you've got general things that will give you the intonation that you're moving.
So I'm going to have to stop it occasionally.
In other words, you'd notice. Right? Yeah. Well, if the ball Earth was turning, there'd be something measurable in that regard. Right, can you talk amongst yourselves? Someone's at my door, and I think I know my wife is here.
Yeah.
Sorry, carry on.
Well, Chocolate, you there?
Don't worry, my wife is actually here. I didn't have to run to the door.
No, I was going to say, in a plane, you're in a closed reference frame. So you can throw up a ball and it's going to come down your hand. But they're telling Earth is an open system.
Yes.
Well, you can't use that same example. And if you do, then these spaceships aren't going anywhere.
But this ball has one other tiny systematic error. And I want you to give...
It's not got an error. Whatever you say next is going to be wrong because it's a ball dangling on a bit of string. It's not error-inducing. Yeah? What's he talking about?
Me a message and tell me what that systematic error is. And you can leave that message either via Facebook or on Twitter. But I'll give you a clue. This ball has been on YouTube before. Check out Derek Muller's Veritasium and you'll find that the ball has appeared in videos before. And that'll give you the clue. My name is Paul from high school.
Oh, that was meaningless nonsense. You're leaving me with a little guessing game? What? What are you talking about? Periodic errors in your ball. No, it didn't behave as you would like, letting you know that you were moving the entire time. Until you weren't moving. Then it behaved like you weren't moving. But your example is to say that when you're moving, you don't notice. Making your example, what's the word? Crap. Because at no point during your example did it actually demonstrate what you said. Ever. Not once.
Yeah. Exactly. In fact, where are the control variables for this experiment?
We're not talking about control variables because there's no cause and effect reasoning based on a supposition that he has come to after observing a natural phenomena. Now, if he was to detail that natural phenomena that we had to fill in the gaps for him, then I'd want to see him establishing the cause of that specific phenomena that he's observing. And that's it. I just want to know what caused that. Nothing else. I wouldn't want a speculation about bloody Einstein.
Yeah, I know. I'm just having fun here because he's running fast and loose with the word science. He's not doing any science. It's not an experiment. And the reason I said control variables is because he already told us, well, when I hit a bump in the road, this happens. And if I do this, this happens. So this is not an experiment. You're just hitting a bump in the road and makes the ball move. Like, yeah,
but he needs
you can't figure that out.
But for the most part, though, his examples are correct. When he's trying to detail non-inertial and inertial reference frames, I have no issue whatsoever saying, no, you're not going to get that perfect scenario. But you don't need it to example how a non-inertial and inertial reference frame work. You don't need to give me a visual example of it working perfectly. And, fine, don't worry about it. But the moment you tell me that in a world of moving constantly, you wouldn't be able to tell, all right, this is your example of how we are actually moving constantly through a space-time vacuum. Okay, well, if that is the case, you better damn well show me an example where it absolutely does not in any way show that to be the case. And when you do, I'll say, okay, that's fascinating. It still doesn't prove we're moving. Your comparison to what you claim wouldn't happen when we were moving. So all you've done is say, we're not moving, but you wouldn't be able to tell anyway. Look, here's an example where something's moving and you can't tell. Okay, so because we can't tell, we are moving. No, that's a crap standard, I'm afraid. I'll need something more than that, like a measurement. Now, I can take the mathematics of your rim velocity of a spinning ball in a vacuum and extrapolate out, because I am fantastic with maths and my name's Adam Meakin, how much we'd actually detect. And we don't. I also know that there's a claim Coriolis deflection. That would be to say that things that leave the turning Earth, like footballs, bullets, aeroplanes, drones, or anything, you if you jump up and down, are supposed to be subject to a 15 degrees an hour deflection as Earth turns underneath them. Again, we do not see this effect. But the globe claims we will. So we don't see an effect, but you're going to give us apologetics for why we wouldn't notice. No, just prove we're actually moving. That's what you've got to do. Prove your positive assertion. Don't explain why we won't notice with crap examples that literally every step of the journey of you giving apologetics for why we won't notice, we noticed! Your ball moved! So you're going to have to do better than that. And even if you did, if you got your ball to be perfectly stationary because it was much more hefty, I'd still say, whoa, how is that proving we're moving? If I compare something that you can't notice that it's not going very fast, suddenly that means that the ground itself we're actually attached to is going fast. No. Fail. Total fail.
Yeah, but they have to use the word inertial, non-inertial, science, all this for something that we don't notice, which is Earth-based Coriolis.
It's the same thing all the time as the apologetics. Oh, we're supposed to see this curvature here. Here's all the reasons why we don't see it, and we just see objects that we just see. Right? It's the same nonsense. Here's all the reasons why we don't feel or measure that we're spinning. But yet, please believe us that we're spinning. Thank you.
Here's all the reasons we don't see a geometric physical horizon hill getting in the way of stuff. I mean, here it is in the maths for how much it'll get in the way of stuff, but we've got every excuse in the sun why it won't be in the way and why you wouldn't notice.
Nathan, if he was in a convertible, if he was in a convertible without a windshield, kind of like a motorcycle rider would feel, and he had an apparatus from the floorboard up, kind of like a crane, and that ball was hanging from that, what would that ball be doing as he's speeding along the road?
I'm pretty sure it's taken out of the back of his car.
Well, I have a video, Master B, of a crane in high winds, just to give the audience a little fun time about this nonsense.
You know what country this is from?
I have no idea. I just seen the crane going down.
I mean, this isn't inertial and non-inertial reference frame, so is it? This is just wind.
No, this is what I'm saying. If you're in a car, in a convertible, and you're moving, wind is going to hit your face. It's going to hit the ball because you're moving. If you're in that same car and you're not moving, the ball's going to be still. No wind's going to hit you on a still day, that is.
Come on, collapse already.
I was saying the same thing when it's about
Timber! Hooray! I knew someone would do it. Did you hear someone in the background going hooray?
So when you go outside and you run your hand across your body fast, you feel the wind against your hand.
I love it.
If you're
Sexual.
not,
Beautiful.
What's that?
Nothing.
Yeah, so I'm just saying, this is real simple. If you go outside, everything's fine until you move your hand real fast with your palm up to feel the wind, and then you feel it. But if you don't move, you don't feel it because you're not going against anything. In a
Yes.
convertible, if it's stationary and say it's a windless day, you're not going to feel any wind. But if you drive, you're going to feel it. I mean, this is so obvious, to second nature to understand what's going on here.
Indeed. Adam is here. He's obviously tied up doing something and didn't know we were talking about how wonderful he is with his mathematics, otherwise he'd have piped up. But almost 100 people watching. Wonderful. Thank you very much to all of you who've shared the show. 94 people watching. Only as a result of people sharing the show. We definitely haven't been put out with algorithmic love to get to that number. So yeah, please share the show if you've not done so already.
I think Chocolate made a point that crosses over on many aspects of how we debunk the globe. The things that are supposed to be happening aren't happening, but they make up verbiage as if they are, but we'll never notice.
It's nothing but apologetics for globe Earth. You know, why we won't see a horizon, why we won't feel us turning, why we can't get an elevation angle measurement from a curved baseline. Oh no, that's one of ours.
Right, but they're always apologizing and yet saying it's happening, but it's not happening. It's like, what?
Well, it confuses them, doesn't it? And the best example is always going to be Simon Dan. Because Simon Dan sent me a clip of a man not drifting, bouncing up and down on a tractor, being a trampoline being pulled by a tractor. And he said, look, you and your reference frames are ruined. Because we comprehensively detail, as this gentleman just did, what reference frames are and how they would behave. Now, because we do not notice any drift, Simon Dan took it upon himself to tell me that my, reference frames are ruined. Now, reference frames are just ways of describing things, but the globe Earth has claimed to have two of them, exhibiting a 15 degrees an hour drift called Coriolis effect. But Simon Dan was keen to show me, hey, look, no drift. So no drift giving us the proof that we're turning with a 15 degrees an hour. Well done, Simon Dan, you complete bonehead. Obviously, it's a bit confusing to you when they tell you Earth's turning, there'll be a Coriolis effect, and simultaneously tell you there's no effect to see. Now, we understand that paradox, contradiction, nonsensical assertion with no proof to back it. Yeah, we understand that. But Dan just thought, oh no, why would we expect to see any drift? Because his claims of 15 degrees an hour of it on a globe Earth that's turning, that's why. You know, did you not forget that everyone used to claim that, probably still do even though he's dead, thanks Bob for proving 15 degrees an hour drift is apparent in a fibre optic gyroscope? That would be the gyroscope spinning in fixed space and Earth turning beneath it at a claimed rate of 15 degrees an hour. So that would be your two reference frames that Dan said are ruined. Yeah, unfortunately though, without faulty gyros, there's nothing actually exhibiting this effect. Gyros are put to practical application for remaining rigid in space as you traverse the plane on an aeroplane. They don't deviate at all. Meanwhile, faulty gyro, oh look, there we go, there's the drift we needed. That's not exhibited anywhere else except in this very complicated gyro that doesn't work properly because it does not remain fixed in space. But that's showing we've got 15 degrees an hour drift of Earth turning underneath you if you jump up and down. Yeah, that causes a lot of confusion to people like Dan, who can't really understand whether or not they should or shouldn't have drift. Go ahead.
No, Chocolate, go.
So that's a great way to prove your point, isn't it? To depend on a contraption that's malfunctioning.
Well, it's worse than that because it's either the sun moving 15 degrees an hour that gives the effect, or the Earth is moving 15 degrees an hour that gives the effect. And if the sun was moving 15 degrees an hour, the flight time remains the same. If the Earth was moving 15 degrees an hour, there should be a reduced flight time east to west, and that's never happening.
Yeah.
It's over. It's over right there.
It's confusing. I had a on the trek over to a class with my eldest daughter, she started explaining this concept to me, literally today, about the sun remaining stationary. Now, obviously, she's 7, so she's not going to have the best linguistic skills to convey what she was trying to explain to me, and we have just detailed on this show. However, the part that she took away from whatever YouTube video she's watched about heliocentrism was that the sun isn't moving. And when she explained it back to me, I first explained how heliocentrism explains to her that the Earth is claimed to be turning underneath the sun and the stars. And therefore, the claim is that the sun doesn't move, we move. I didn't say this terminology, but with respect to it. Okay. Then she starts bawling her eyes out. I thought the sun didn't move. No, Eleanor. Does the sun come up in the morning above the horizon? Now, you'll have to excuse my phraseology. I'm trying to dumb this down for my daughter when I say come up. That's not how I would necessarily detail it in a debate or discussion as a flat earther. I'm just talking to a 7-year-old. But when I'm trying to get her to comprehend, we observe the sun moving. It has apparent motion. Now, I don't know the cause of the apparent motion. That would be something I could put through the scientific method. It is far beyond my scope of ability, as far as I'm concerned, to vary and manipulate that which I assume will cause the sun's movement. How dare I be so bold as to assume that I can validate and vary something which will cause that effect? No, I can't. However, men have declared that they have the cause of that effect, and it's by moving the very ground that you're standing on. Yeah, it's called heliocentrism. You'll be moving around the sun, not the sun apparently moving around us, which is how we observe it. And after 5 minutes of straight explanation in terms of literally what my daughter actually observes to apparently happen with respect to the sun and her position, that is to say, it moves, it comes up over here and goes down over there. In between, it's moved. That upset her. Because as far as she was concerned from whatever SciShow Kids video that she'd watched, they're telling her it does not move. That was the main point that they had reiterated again and again and again in the kids' video. So she firmly understood it doesn't move. And she had to have that cemented in her mind at this tender age to move on with the comprehension later that we're moving with respect to it. It's too young to understand that now. Maybe she did. I did explain it to her in as dumbed down way as I could. But all I was left with at the end of this was a video has told you the sun ain't moving. And it's upset you when you realise it is. Bloody obviously moving. And that upset her. And it's like, why? Why does some nonsense doublespeak within the heliocentric rhetoric have to poison my daughter? Upsetting, to say the least. Anyway.
I think that's kind of that old school rhetoric, because I do remember at some point when I was in elementary school, that was the old way they taught us, that the sun was stationary and everything moved around it. It's not till later on I realized that the sun is supposedly moving 500,000 miles in a direction. So when you're a kid, that's what they tell you. That's what they show you. You don't ever see that GIF where the sun is moving across the galaxy or whatever, and the planets are chasing it. You don't see that. I didn't see that, so I became a flat earther.
Right. Yeah, they cement it in your mind that it's the solar system only. And the solar system has a static sun at the center. And that's where the original system is named. Heliocentric. Helios, the sun. Centric speaks for itself. Sun at center. Us moving around a stationary sun. So from a tender age, they train kids. It's not moving. That was the point that she reiterated to me over and over again. Why? Because it's obviously been cemented in her mind by the video she's watched. Sad. 104 people watching. Wow, brilliant. Finally tipped over 100 people after a 2 or 3 day stint of staying just under. Marvellous. Thank you very much, everybody who smashed the share button. Really appreciate it. It's good to see. Yeah, not my favourite video. I've got to be honest. 10th, it was all right, but not the crane one, but the do before. But as always, can't believe we got to the end of a video for a change. Please let this dude know, and he's called PhysicsHigh. That's the name of the channel. There's a link whizzing its way by in the live stream chat if you are watching this live. Just let him know at Nathan Oakley 1980 sent me. We responded to your video, and the video is called "What Are Frames of Reference in Physics?" So yeah, let him know with a nice comment. Hopefully he'll respond and put a link to our video. You never know your luck. Okay, we've got a diagram from 10th. Go ahead.
You did good. I mean, especially with all the things going on, you did pretty good on that one. That's he brought in gravity, he brought in science when it's not science. You know, they just keep doing that all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, like I say, I've got an internet guy coming out tomorrow to fix my router. Hopefully.
I got a picture in Master B for you to show. The sun's angle.
Yeah.
So here's an angle. Guess what you need? Lamborghini, right? You're gonna need a flat plane.
Yeah.
To measure that angle, as they show it, and it's the equinox. Day and night are equal. So it's referencing that time of year twice a year where there's no earth tilts and equal day, equal night. But as you can see there, based on what you said to your daughter, it rises from the east and sets in the west. Much like if you were looking at a skyline and all of a sudden spotted a plane. Was that touching the horizon? How can a plane be touching the horizon? And then next thing you know, it's directly overhead at 90 degrees, like the sun, but maybe 30,000 feet in the sky. And then as you watch it, if you have time, it's, hey, is that touching the horizon on the west? Is it crashing? Or is that perspective?
With that, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley Premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. Unfortunately, though, if you are watching this live, this is where we bid you farewell. So a huge, massive, enormous thank you to all of you who smashed the super chat, liked, commented, shared, subscribed, joined as a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member, and all that good stuff. Of course, another massive thank you to today's Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!